Welcome, everybody. We're going to give folks another minute or so and then we'll get started. All right, welcome everybody to our Blue Sky group on AI and machine learning in clinical and translational research. So just to kind of set the stage today, my name is Kathy Grenling. I'm the director of the Collaboration and Multidisciplinary Team Science aspect of this Georgia CTSA. And our goal is to help promote collaborations across our researchers. So Blue Sky groups are unstructured, they're very informal. It's going to be something like, no, you probably haven't experienced before, where we'll get a short introduction to the topic, and then we'll ask all of you to comment on your research and what kind of collaborations you're looking for. So today, I'm very pleased to welcome Dr. Anant Matabushi, who is the executive director of the Emory Empathetic AI for Health Institute. He has really transformed AI at Emory, and he's going to give us a short introduction to the topic. So we're going to try to talk about what are the burning issues, not quite yet, Lauren, thanks. What are the burning issues in this area? Are there funding opportunities out there we should be thinking about? And what are the areas for cross-institutional collaboration? So we want you to share your experience, your own experience, learn from others while you're here, and hopefully you'll enjoy the discussion today. So we do want to also, go ahead, Lauren. We do want to also let you know that we have a program for collaboration pilots. So if you meet someone today and you're planning to launch a collaboration, we'll give you a very small grant, $1,500, to help you start that collaboration and get it off the ground. So if you're interested in that, we'll give you the QR code later in the event today. But for right now, we're gonna pause and get started to talking about AI and machine learning. Anant?
Thank you, Kathy, for that very kind introduction. I'm not sure whether I can be held solely responsible for a lot of the AI innovation happening on campus, but glad to be a part of what is evolving as a very robust AI ecosystem within Emory and then beyond with our partnering institutions. So what I'd like to do just in the few minutes allocated to me is just maybe introduce the newly launched AI Health Institute and just talk a little bit about that, talk about some of our activities, and just want to offer that up for folks who are interested as a new initiative enterprise that even though it is headquartered, so to speak, in Emory, is really meant to be open to all our partners across the different institutions. So I'd like to just talk a little bit about that institute, and then, of course, look forward to hearing from all of you, and then we can get into how to collaborate, what to collaborate on, funding opportunities, and so on. So let me just go ahead and share my slides here. Right. So just by way of background and just introduction, I'm a biomedical engineer and moved to Atlanta about 2.5 years ago. I've spent the last 20 years in the academic space at the intersection of machine learning and medicine. I trained as a biomedical engineer through my undergrad, my graduate work, my master's, and then subsequently my PhD. And this is my third academic stint. Prior to this, prior to coming to Atlanta, I was at Case Western Reserve University, where I headed up a center on computational imaging and personalized diagnostics. And when I came to Atlanta, or at least when I heard about Atlanta, immediately what struck me was the amazing opportunity to build an enterprise around AI and health, and particularly given the diversity of the patient population that we have here within our Atlanta ecosystem, the opportunity to really do something that tackled some of the burning, pressing issues of the day, which is really precision medicine, financial toxicity with regard to healthcare, and then also really this issue around health disparities. And I'll talk a little bit about some of those things. But about a year, just over a year ago, we officially launched the Emory Empathetic AI for Health Institute with the goal of really revolutionizing health and medicine with this very exciting technology that is AI. And this was our launch exactly, like I said, just a little over a year ago in 2023, where we officially opened up the Emory AI Health Symposium, Emory AI Health Institute, through this symposium that was heavily subscribed to. We just concluded, in fact, last week, our first birthday, and we had our second AI symposium that was conducted on the Emory campus in HSRB1. And that, again, saw a very robust turnout with between 400 and 450 people. And we actually had speakers, moderators from multiple institutions, including Georgia Tech, Georgia State, as well as Morehouse, as well as several different commercial vendors who were at the meeting. So in broad brushstrokes, the main goal of this enterprise is not just to focus on the research, but also really thinking about translation and deployment that is moving the AI-related research into real-world application. And that really is underscored by this sort of trifecta mission of the Institute, which is that we want to leverage the diversity and the plurality of the data within our ecosystem and our clinical partners to be able to access the vast amounts of data, to be able to develop and innovate and validate novel machine learning algorithms to unlock medically relevant insights. But beyond that, beyond the validation, to really be able to deploy these tools within the healthcare enterprise. And then ultimately to also work with partners to be able to scale and deploy these technologies so that we can really have an impact, not just in a local basis, but really hopefully someday on a global basis. So just a couple of accomplishments. We've had some successes in the last 2.5 years that we've been here. We've had some grant funding successes, and I'll talk a little bit about those, or we can talk about it during the discussion. It's not just been the funding that has emanated directly from the Institute, where somebody at the Institute has been a PI, but one of the things that we've also been doing has been to really find ways to work with other groups and other disease sites and other areas to put out applications. And this has been part of the recipe, is really focusing on collaborations, because if you're going to think that you're going to find success in this space simply by sort of hiding somewhere in the basement and writing code, that's typically not how it works. You really got to actively seek collaborations, work with collaborators, identify the clinically relevant problems, and through a synergistic, symbiotic partnership, that's really seems to be the recipe for success. We've also been actively expanding our footprint in the space. 7 new faculty recruits that we managed to hire in the last year alone. And we have 2 other faculty recruits underway. So hopefully by Q1 of next year, we will officially be at 9 recruits as part of the Institute. I just want to quickly add that these aren't the only faculty associated with the Institute. There are a number of other faculty. We're about 40 to 50 faculty who are associated with the Institute. A number of them are already here. And also just want to stress and clarify, this is not meant to be just solely an Emory-focused enterprise. We're really open to engaging, involving collaborators from other institutions as well. And in fact, faculty who are associated with the institute, not just Emory faculty, but include Morehouse, include UGA, as well as Georgia Tech. One of the other pieces that we're also working on is with our partners in Emory Healthcare, working on starting to implement some of these technologies within the clinical workflow, and also thinking about use of AI in other areas, including process optimization. Just quickly, just to give you a snapshot of some of the recent recruits, I put this up here. This is not a comprehensive list. We're missing two other new faculty, Farzad Feriduni, who was recently recruited into Emory just, in fact, 2 months ago with pathology and Winship, and then Dr. Ravi Parekh, who recently joined us from University of Pennsylvania. And Ravi is focused he's a medical oncologist, but interested in AI in regulatory policy as well. But the reason I put this up is because you can see and appreciate that the faculty here come across different disciplines, different areas. Drew Williamson is in pathology, and Dr. Saima Rathore is and Yun Wang are in biomedical informatics. Dr. Michael Gerard is in ophthalmology. Dr. Sundaresh Ram is in radiology. And again, it goes back to collaboration and the need to find and seek collaborations across the spectrum of disciplines, and working with them to bring on these stellar faculty, but then also to write compelling proposals and compelling grants to get funded in this space. Just we'll add, we're expanding into several other areas. We're working, hopefully the goal will be to also work to get recruitments in other areas, including radiation oncology, diabetes, public health, and we're working on hopefully finalizing another recruit in the pediatric space as well. I just want to echo what I said previously. The collaborations are beyond just Emory. This is not solely meant as an Emory-centric exercise or initiative. We have several active collaborations in AI with Georgia Tech. Recently submitted a joint SPORE grant on healthcare disparities and the use of AI with Morehouse Medical, working very closely with James Lillard, who's the Chief Innovation Officer over at Morehouse Medical, working with Dr. Ritu Aneja at University of Alabama, Birmingham. We've been working on the use of AI for triple-negative breast cancer. And Dr. Vince Calhoun, who's been doing a lot of work in AI for brain health, is also a collaborator, and in fact gave a stellar keynote lecture last week at the AI Health Symposium. So just wanted to whet the appetite a little bit with some of our recent activity within the Institute, and look forward to the discussion. Kathy, over to you.
Thanks so much, Anant. So now it's your turn. We want to hear from you. Tell us about what your research focuses on, what you're looking for in a collaboration. And I'm just going to call on you in the order that I see you on my screen. And if you would put your camera, if you're in a position where you can put your camera on when it's your turn to talk, that would be helpful. So I'm going to start with Deanna.
Hi, everyone. I'm Deanna Kaplan. I am a clinical psychologist by training. I'm an assistant professor in the preventive medicine department in the School of Medicine. I'm here sort of as a clinician scientist. I've been doing clinical research with speech biomarkers for about the last 10 years or so. Most of that research has been very linguistically focused. And in collaboration with the App Hatchery at the Georgia CTSA, we developed a smartphone app that collects daily speech samples from research participants. And we're now using this app in a lot of studies that actually have aims that aren't about speech biomarkers, but we are increasingly sitting on a sort of growing treasure trove of speech samples from various clinical populations. And so I'm here with interest in how we might grow this science into an acoustic analytics and also predictive diagnostics direction, which is very much outside of my wheelhouse as a clinical scientist. So that's why I'm here today. Fantastic to connect with all of you.
Great. Can I just ask, Deanna, are you are you working with Anthony Law, Dr. Tony Law?
I'm not actually.
Okay.
I'm working with Wilbur Lamb and Gary Clifford, are two folks who are involved with this already. But I don't know him yet, actually.
I would look up Dr. Tony Law. He's a head and neck surgeon and gave a fabulous TEDx talk last year talking about the use of speech-based biomarkers with AI for diagnosis of head and neck cancer, actually. So you may want to look him up. He's at Emory. So
Fantastic. Thank you.
That's a great connection. Perfect example of what we're trying to accomplish here. Thank you, Deanna, and thank you for the plug for the App Hatchery through the CTSA. Ernest.
Ernest Aliba Mensah from Morehouse School of Medicine, and I work with Dr. Alexander Pashi and Dr. Mohammed Idris in the biomedical informatics unit. And well, we have been working closely. So if Dr. Idris is here, maybe he will better explain where we are in this process. But I'm here representing the biomedical informatics group at Morehouse School of Medicine.
Can you tell us just briefly what you work on, particularly what you're general working on? I don't see Dr.
Oh, yeah, generally, I have been working with students on research, but we had some data, and when Dr. Idris came in, we had some diabetes data where they're working with coaches and so forth, and we used some of these tools to generate some papers. And we've been working with the what we call it, the I2B2 group, connecting our database, I2B2 database, with what we call the I2B2 group in Harvard. We've been sharing data with them almost weekly, so we've been involved. And the last training we had interaction, there were enormous use of AI, I2B2 to identify cohorts for research, and so we are also pursuing that direction.
Okay, thank you. Maybe when Dr. Idris joins us, he can tell us more about the diabetes direction of research. Nadine.
Yes, hi, Kathy, and thank you really for this opportunity. It's wonderful to see you. And I do vaccine research at Emory, more on the clinical and the translational side. And a few things I can think of that the AI revolution could tremendously help with. Beyond vaccine, maybe from a programmatic perspective, NIH had shared earlier this week about a trial GPT where they took AI and they took clinicians and they swift through eligibility criteria for specific patients. And then actually trial GPT did as well, if not better, in matching them. And that could be quite important for not only prevention, but also therapeutics. I'm thinking particularly cancer. So it would be wonderful if AI could really embrace 80% of clinical trials do not fully enroll, and we don't get the answer that we need, and we perhaps are exposing other people without getting the answer that we need. So that I feel like AI can help tremendously. Of course, there are some considerations from an ethical and an IRB perspective would have to swift through that. But at least if we can get the match going, that will be really outstanding. And I think Emory and then other CTSA member could take full advantage of that. And I have two more thoughts, but Anand, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Nadine, so thank you for that. So just very briefly, this idea of trial matching, I think there's a lot of excitement, there's a lot of interest. Our group does some of that. One of the things we've been doing has actually been to go back, look at retrospective negative trials and try to analyze the data from negative trials to identify, if you'd used AI to stratify patient populations using, in our case, we do a lot of image-based analysis and image-based AI. Could you have re-stratified the patients in a way that would have resulted in a positive trial? And so that's some of the interest that we have. But the other person I would mention here is a person I previously referenced, Dr. Ravi Parekh, who is a hematologist, who's a hemonc. MedOnc, and is part of Winship. And his focus, in fact, a great deal of it is around this concept of clinical trial matching using large language models with electronic health records. So that might be a point of contact.
Yeah, thank you for that, Anand. And then, I mean, like we are in a periodism, especially with vaccine, where there's just like a lot of questions about the safety and the efficacy of it. I mean, one way that AI can help tremendously is make it more personalized. Right now, CDC usually recommend a age cutoff for most vaccine because it's easier to understand, of course, and it puts less burden on a shared decision between the patients and their provider. But I think we all know that we're very different. And then there could be a way. I mean, RSV vaccine is a perfect example of that. The recommendations are changing year by year, obviously, because we don't have enough information from the clinical trials about durability, etc. But a simple example could be somebody who has a lung transplant, right? They're not yet 60. They're young enough, perhaps, not to have issues with Guillain-Barré, or perhaps not have issues with AFib, which had been like kind of the two driving safety issues that had precluded the RSV recommendation to go down in age. I mean, I think, CTSA and Emory could play a really big role in like personalized vaccine. And then, in addition to that, we have tons of data from vaccine and treatment evaluation unit trials where we've collected a wealth of information about pandemic, influenza, COVID vaccine, bioterrorism vaccine. I mean, ideally, what could be done from AI is try to find what is the ideal dose, for the best, safety profile in a sense. So those are just a few ideas, and I hope we could work together.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so I'll just say that, in fact, you talked about lung transplants. I was actually talking to Adam Bingman and Chris Larson and Lorenzo, who's the head of lung transplants now at Emory, just about this topic, about using AI for predicting successful lung transplants. One of the other opportunities that we've been exploring just within with folks in the vaccine space has been really figuring out how to corral all the vast amounts of data that exist. Because one of the things that we also need to recognize, and this has been one of my sort of observations in the last 2.5 years that I've been here, is we have a lot of data, but it's not necessarily in a way that makes it AI ready. And that's sort of one of the challenges, is that, if you want to get to a point where you can leverage AI, you've got to do the heavy lifting of getting your data organized in a way that allows you to ask some of those questions. I'll be honest, I think the tech that we have right now that exists, a lot of it could be used to address some of the questions that you have already, but part of it is just wrangling and getting the data pulled out and assembled, right? So that's...
Yeah, no, I understand.
Something that we acknowledged, yeah.
Thanks. I should say before we go on, just if you hear something that interests you or you feel like you could interact, please feel free to use the chat, either to message someone individually or just to put some observations in the chat. So let's move on to Ben. Ben Braxley, are you here with us?
I'm here.
Would you like to share your interest?
Oh, certainly. I'm the senior program coordinator for a new Center for Physical Therapy and Movement Science at Emory, and we're looking for opportunities to be kind of involved in this space. I'm a physical therapist by training, and we're looking for ways to leverage new technology. Everything from ambient listening to pattern recognition, working with Hyung Kwon with some visual data that could help us. So I'm eager to just kind of hear what others are doing and kind of have opportunities for funding on the radar, not specifically for this moment in time, but potentially for future collaborations. It's my background.
Thanks, Ben. Jesus? Or Anant, did you want to say something? Sorry.
No, I think no, that's a really fertile area, and in fact, we are teamed up, with the group propose. There was sort of an initiative within the I think so the neurology space. There was some pilot funding. So we teamed up together with some of the investigators to look at sort of using AI to predict movement disorders, and in the context particularly of Parkinson's disease, but also in the context of sort of rehab. And so we're waiting to hear back, but that's certainly an area that is very primed for application of AI. Yeah. And I've been over, by the way, just to give a couple of talks in the rehab space as well over the last year. Yeah.
Good. Jesus.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm actually a new faculty at Morehouse, just started this past September. And I'm in the Department of Gastroenterology and primarily focused at looking at colorectal cancer and actually kind of from the context of the microbiome and kind of different omics. And that's kind of been the thread through different kind of diseases of looking at essentially how those kind of interplay. And then in fellowship, actually kind of fell into machine learning, didn't expect it, but we had a collaborator who was developing pipelines using Python. We learned a little bit in R as well, how to do some simple machine learning pipelines, and then really kind of saw the use for these big data sets. We're just having a lot of different data points. We're kind of getting data from different GI sites, both microbial sequencing and now host sequencing as well, and it kind of seeing the way of finding better relationships with the data and the outcomes, and possibly even like predicting, specific disease outcomes in incident populations. And so, excited to hear what everybody else is doing and seeing, where we can take our work as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jesus, just a couple of quick reactions there. So while I've not done a ton of work in the microbiome area, one of my data scientists, in fact, worked for Mahmoud Ghanoom. I don't know if that name rings a bell, but Mahmoud is a very established investigator in Cleveland who has been working with the gut microbiome for a while. And I briefly consulted for his company as well. But one of his data scientists is now part of our group. So if you're looking for somebody who has some expertise or just to connect with, who's worked in this space in terms of bioinformatics for the microbiome, I can put you in touch with this individual.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'll send you an email. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely.
Thanks, and welcome to Atlanta, Jesus.
Much appreciated.
Pramod.
Hi, everyone. I'm Pramod Mishra, co-founder of Unify.ai. We are one of the Georgia Tech Createx incubated startup. We worked with InterSystems and Epic in clinical data summarization. Recently, we got one project with one biotech company on the clinical trials, and that's where we thought it's a good idea to understand locally from whatever data is available. So yeah, that's our current interest in. We'll be more than happy to work on any such clinical data. We are basically a team of machine learning engineers, and from a domain perspective, mostly in clinical data.
Pramod, great to meet you. Have you connected or interacted with Dr. Madhu Behra?
I met her once, yes.
Okay. Yeah. I think she would be a good person to talk to. Dr. Madhu Behra is our chief research informatics officer for the university, and also very closely involved with the Winship activities. And she has a team of data scientists who are trying to do similar things using large language models to scope through clinical data and helping ultimately sort of do clinical trial matching. So she might be a good point of contact. Yeah.
Awesome. Sure. Will do. Thank you.
Thank you. Tracy?
Good morning. I am with the School of Nursing Center for Data Science, and we have several faculty members who are part of the center, and some of them are AI researchers. They work on varied research backgrounds, AI for brain health, AI for cardiology, sensor technology used for mobility assessment, voice technology used in speech data analytics, things like that. So I'm just here to find out, like others have said, what's going on across these different campuses and to see how we might be able to connect our faculty with you all.
Thank you for joining, Tracy. Dr. Zhao Hu in the School of Nursing is a good friend and collaborator, and we've been starting to brainstorm around some joint proposals. And in fact, several folks from the School of Nursing were at the AI Health Symposium. We can give talks and help moderate sessions. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Dong Hai.
Yeah, hello, I'm Dong Hee. Yes, I'm an assistant professor at the Georgia State University at the Computer Science and the Trend Center. So my research interest in applying the machine learning or AI for the medical imaging, like the brain imaging or the retinal imaging and the histopathological imaging. So I have a few research projects to improve the diagnosis and the prognosis on the cancer treatment or the neurodevelopment analysis. So specifically, I'm very interested in using the multimodal, like using the vision language model to generate some of the radiological report automatically, given the fusion learning and with the limited training data set. So I'm looking for some clinical collaborator or some the data set to validate or translate our algorithm to the real clinical setting. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining, Dong. Can I didn't quite catch which specific application areas are you working in right now?
Yes, so because I'm in the Trend Center, so definitely the brain, the brain MR, the AD, so actually I have many applications, so the brain MR, the AD diagnosis, or the schizophrenia, the mental disease, the analysis. But also I'm work for the polyp detection for the gastrointestinal GI imaging, the video detection, and currently I have the NIH grant to develop the new microscope for the breast cancer, the margin assessment. So, and I have a collaborator in the Medical College of Wisconsin they developed the new the margin imaging, the intraoperative margin assessment, and they have developed a new microscope. And because it's a very limited data set, so we're gonna use the large H&E imaging and some also the genetic information, all those the multimodal learning to tackle the limited training data set in the AI, particularly in the medical field. Yes.
Great. So very quickly, I'll react. Would love to connect with you and talk about some of these things offline. Just working backwards from the projects that you mentioned. The margin detection, I think this will be announced next week, but Farzad Feriduni and myself are being awarded an ARPA-H grant, which is focused on AI for...
Yeah, we applied it too, but it was not funded, yeah.
For margin detection in breast cancer patients.
Yeah.
That's actually kicking off officially next week. You may want to connect with Farzad Feriduni if you haven't already, who was just recruited to the AI Health Institute just a couple of months ago.
Okay.
He's developing some very exciting imaging technology called Phoebe for identifying margins. In the Alzheimer's space and the brain imaging space, obviously I'm sure you work closely with Vince Calhoun, but over on the Emory side, Saima Rathore, who's a new faculty recruit in the Brain Health Institute as well as BMI, would be a good person to connect with. And she is focused on AI in brain health. My group is also very interested in brain health, but we're doing a lot more retinal imaging and oculomics, and happy to talk to you about that. And then finally, I think you mentioned histopathology as well. And one of our, obviously that's a lot of what my group does as well, but if you're looking at sort of visual foundation models, you may want to connect with Drew Williamson. Drew Williamson just authored a first author Nature paper on PathChat, which I'm sure you've heard of, which is a multimodal foundational visual foundation to be able to generate pathology reports directly from pathology images. Drew was just recruited earlier this year from Boston, and he's in pathology.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Those are some great connections. Perfect for what we're trying to do here today. So Shu or Adam? Adam Chen?
Yes. Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Adam Chen. I am a professor of health policy and management with the College of Public Health at the UCA. I'm working on a couple projects trying to use AI probably small machine learning algorithm to predict the healthcare expenditure among Medicare beneficiaries. I'm trained as a health economist, so I'm working on healthcare cost side. We're trying to see if there's a bias associated with the risk adjustment for the Medicare beneficiaries. If there's any application that we can look into that and improve the prediction of the risk and of the medical expenditures. I look forward to hearing more and potential collaborations. Thanks. That's all.
Thanks for joining. So I go back to Dr. Ravi Parekh, who I mentioned. Ravi joined us just a couple of months ago, so he's still very new to Emory. And I don't know whether you were able to catch our AI Health Symposium from last week, but we actually had a dedicated session that was moderated by Dr. Parekh that specifically focused on sort of the regulatory aspects, policy aspects, and in fact, really wonderful workshop or session that really focused on debating these issues in the context of AI. And we touched on a number of different topics. We actually had some great speakers from the law school, right, who came and gave sort of the legal side and the legal perspective with regard to AI technologies for healthcare and medicine. So maybe those are some connections. Certainly Dr. Parekh would be the first person that I would think about reaching out to. And then I'm just dropping in the link to the symposium from last week, so that gives you what the agenda looked like. And if you see on day one, there was this specific session, which was focused on the regulatory and the policy side. So there are a couple of names there from the law school that you might want to consider reaching out to as well.
Very good. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Wendy.
Hi, Wendy Green, Department of Surgery and Critical Care. Thank you, everybody, for all your insights. I am new to the AI space. I have been working with Dr. Gachoya on AI and health equity, AI and frailty. For the AI frailty, one of the areas where we're looking at is for the emergency general surgery population. So I would say the biggest part of this project has been trying to get the database automated from our Epic system. And I've been working with the Epic team to facilitate that information, and we're validating the cohort and how it's coming out right now. We have collaborations not only with radiology to be able to look at the CT scans and look, there's some new software that they have that can measure the psoas muscle diameter and be able to identify from a radiographic standpoint whether someone is it would be considered frail or nutritionally depleted. as well as the AI piece that would be helpful that we would like to also include is the nutritional information from our nutritional dietary assessments. So that it would combine a radiographic and a clinical piece that would help us hopefully be able to provide more rapid real-time information as we're having discussions with patients and their families. If we could get it automated, once we validate the retrospective analysis, to eventually be able to do it prospectively to facilitate our decision making with patients and their families regarding what the patient's risk, personalizing medicine in a way we could assess their risk for worse outcomes, and maybe a different decision needs to be made.
Great. Thanks, Wendy. Thanks for joining. So the only it looks like you're already plugged in, and you're looks like things are going well. Of course, everybody wants to work with Dr. Gachoya. No surprise there. But I just want to draw your attention. Maybe this is something that might be useful. Last year, I was involved with a workshop focused on big data analytics and predictive technologies, specifically related to food and nutrition. And this was a workshop that we did with the National Academies last year in DC. And in fact, the first person I thought of for a speaker was Dr. Gachoya. So she actually spoke at this meeting. And there's a full comprehensive report that was published, and I just dropped it in the chat box and that's potentially of interest.
Thank you so much.
And what strikes me as I'm listening to all this is just the breadth of applications for AI and machine learning. Peter.
Yes. I'm Peter Baltras. I'm a professor at Morehouse School of Medicine. I'm a social epidemiologist, and very broadly, all my research is around health disparities. The studies that I like to be involved in are multi-level, multidisciplinary studies, that go all the way often from the social neighborhood level all the way down, into the omics level often. And so there's 3 studies. 2 of them are underway, and one of them is just in the planning phase right now. So the one is about staph infections in children. We have data from CHOA, and we're going to apply association mining on the antibiotic resistance to create profiles of antibiotic resistance, and then look at trends in neighborhoods over time of how those patterns arose in Atlanta neighborhoods, and also what factors the neighborhood level might be predicting those patterns, as well as doing some work on recurrence of. We have a consultant from Northeastern helping us with the association mining, but as that moves on, it's possible we may need other help with that as we move on. We'll see. The other project that's underway is it's a clinical trial. But it's a social clinical trial essentially. We have put together a network of networks of FQHCs, federally qualified health centers, around the country, where we are looking at what happens when we close the loop on social services on patients, and does it improve their outcomes as far as hypertension and controlling diabetes. Related to that is we're also building a data ecosystem across those networks, which in the future, right, if this becomes an ongoing funded database, will provide excellent opportunities for applying machine learning, artificial intelligence for all kinds of studies. But that's definitely in the future, but that's what we're building towards. And the other one that's in the planning phase is what we call MECA 2. The first MECA stands for, it's Emory. It's Morehouse Emory Cardiovascular Study, essentially, is what MECA is. The first one was a cross-sectional study that looked at resilient Atlanta neighborhoods and resilient people among the African American population here in Atlanta. And that too was a multi-level study that collected data at neighborhood level, individual behavior, psychology, and health. And also there was a clinical phase in it and even a basic science. So we still have some data from that original phase that we need to analyze, especially at the omics level. But we're discussing about applying for funding for a larger study that is longitudinal in nature with more measures. And because of the amount of data we'll be collecting, I am certain it will require forms of machine learning and AI to process all that data across across the multiple levels to look at all these different associations. As of now, do we really have an expert involved with that part of it? We have people that have dabbled a bit in it, but that's potentially an area where we may need help as we move on.
Great. So just some quick reactions here. So I'm guessing you work with Dr. Davis, Dr. Melissa Davis, or at Morehouse?
Nope.
No, okay. She may be somebody you want to at least talk to. Now, her work is very focused on ancestry and molecular characterization, and she has a big cancer focus in her work, but she recently was awarded this $25 million UK-US breakthrough grant, where she's looking at trying to understand disparities, particularly in the cancer space. And she's taking an ancestry-focused approach to it and a genomics-focused approach to understanding differences in outcomes. She may just based on what you described, she may be at least somebody that you want to maybe consider connecting with. We've been working quite closely with Morehouse, like I mentioned, with Dr. James Lillard there. We submitted an AI-focused grant around health disparities, looking at gynecologic cancers very recently. That was a collaborative with Miami, Grady, Morehouse, and Emory that just went out in September. Separately, I can tell you that right now this concept of looking at zip codes, looking at neighborhoods, there's a lot of interest. I can tell you that we just submitted last week, in fact, a grant with collaborators in Cleveland, where we were trying to bring in the neighborhood level information with AI-derived parameters of MRI scans and retinal images to predict the association between environmental exposures and Alzheimer's disease. I dropped in a link based on what you were describing to a recent publication that you might want to look at. This is from my collaborator in Cleveland, Dr. Sanjay Rajagopalan, who's done some very exciting work on using AI to look at neighborhood satellite imagery. And they've also separately looked at Google Street View images to come up with a mapping of cardiovascular risk. So they're actually using AI to look at sort of these street view images, in different neighborhoods and try to come up with an assessment of sort of this social deprivation index based off the AI analysis of these images, and then connected that to cardiovascular risk and shown that there's actually a strong tight correlation. I'm happy to broker that conversation, if there's interest, but I just dropped the paper in the chat box.
Thank you.
Sure.
And it's a small world because Sanjay Rajagopalan was one of our cardiology fellows many years ago.
That's correct. Yeah.
Peter.
Yeah, hi. Oops. Trying to get the camera on. There we go. Hi, everybody. I'm Peter Molnar, the other Peter here. I'm a clinical associate professor at the Robinson College of Business at Georgia State. We have been, ramping up across the college a major effort in building out on Gen AI. We just launched for the next, well, basically now across all the programs, 10 new core courses on Gen AI. I developed 2 of them and teaching them. One is very technical on building AI agents and applications that integrate Gen AI, which is sort of my topic. I also teach a Gen AI course, Gen AI for Leadership in the Executive MBA program. So kind of like the whole spectrum. I've been working with the Shepherd Center on personalized healthcare, and we're looking at how the therapies, the scheduling of different procedures and applying different therapies, how that affect patient outcome. That so far has been not quite Gen AI leveled. We are looking at events and combinations of events that might lead to certain outcomes. But I think in general, then working also, we have been emphasizing a lot recently on personalized teaching, like tutoring and building tutor applications. And I was wondering, that would be something that I thought might be interesting to have to think about personalized information in the healthcare area. I mean, we all know that if something scratches or itches, don't go on the internet and Google it, because it's just going to be bad. On the other, you're just getting down some doom's rabbit hole into something that might not be related. And I don't know of any other tools that are out there with a low level of entry that would be able to allow people to get more information about their health care, whether it's symptoms that they can't explain, or maybe even just their lifestyle or related things that could help. And I think Gen AI could have we could build something that would be more responsible than just going down the internet or reading Reddit blogs about something.
Great. Do you have you connected with Joe Sutherland at Emory?
I have not connected with everybody, so this is very new all for me here. So I really appreciate that. What's the name, Joe?
Yeah, Joe Sutherland. I can drop his name in the chat box. Joe leads the CSAIL initiative within Emory, which is a Center for AI Learning. And a lot of the topics that you talked about, I know are areas of interest for him and things that he's thinking about as well. So that might be a good connection there, particularly when it comes to the educational mission. Yeah.
Thanks.
Sure.
Thank you. Dale. Dale, how
Hello?
Yeah. Yes.
Hi, I am just attending. I have a patent that I'm working on, and it involves AI. So I am here listening in.
All right, thank you. Why I? I don't see a name. YYJ, maybe? Someone here? All right, Timothy?
Good morning. My name is Timothy Obialo. I work with Professor Lima Mensa in the Biomedical Informatics Unit at Morehouse School of Medicine. And yeah, just here to kind of explore, really.
Yeah, so sorry, what area are you working in?
Yeah, he's working with Dr. Kwashi and Dr. Idris in the biomedical informatics unit. So we work together. I just invited them to join. Yeah.
Biomedical informatics.
Okay, great. And is that in the Ernest? I think you said this is in the diabetes space, or?
Yeah, we're working in diabetes space and others. We've been using the I2B2 for cohort and other things. Yeah.
Okay, and then what sort of data is this that you're looking at in diabetes?
Oh, I said this was some. This was what we did with Dr. Idris. We actually collected a lot of data on coaching diabetes patients, giving them the opportunity to exercise and check their glucose level and so forth. This was a project we did some time ago, and we published on that.
Okay, great. Yeah, so there are a couple of names. Again, you may be aware of them already, but one individual, both of them are actually in the School of Public Health. And the other name will come back to me, but one of them is Rodrigo Carrillo. He's a new faculty member in the School of Public Health with a big interest in AI and diabetes. Our work in my lab is also focused, well, not focused, but there is a piece that's focused on diabetes, but a lot of it is focused on image data, where we're trying to predict response to anti-VEGF drugs for diabetic retinopathy and diabetic macular edema. So we're working with eye images. But Dr. Rodrigo Carrillo may be somebody that might be worthwhile connecting with. And I'll drop his name in the chat box here.
Thank you.
Sure.
Excuse me, sorry, I maybe missed the call just now. So can I do a quick self-introduction?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so my name's Yi Jung Yang. So I'm the postdoc researcher from Florida State University College of Nursing. So I work with Dean Dr. Jing Wang at College of Nursing and other great faculty. So we have several projects on chronic diseases like diabetes, Alzheimer's diseases. And my research interest is mainly on Alzheimer's disease and related dementias and the natural language processing to detect the people with early stage dementia. Thank you.
Great. Welcome. Yeah. Oh, Kathy, were you trying to say something? I think you're on mute.
Sorry, I thought I unmuted myself. I was just about to say that we've heard a lot of different applications of AI, and Anand, I'm very impressed with your vast knowledge of the people in this space and all of the ongoing research. Does anybody have any general questions or general ideas they'd like to bring up to the group?
Well, I think that one thing, Kathy, that I guess one of the agenda items is generally to talk about funding, and I just want to sort of state the obvious here that funding is always challenging, but if you've got a good idea, in the AI space, one of the critical things is really identifying good collaborators. Really identifying domain experts. One thing when I'm asked about funding or research grants, one thing I always lead with is the fact that I've never written an R01 styled grant.
Dr. Kwashi.
Ernest, would you mind muting yourself, please? Go ahead, Anand.
One of the things that I've almost never done with these R01 grants is go in as a single PI. It's always a multi-PI team effort, and big part of that has been to find the clinical domain experts, the clinical collaborators who can really articulate and identify what the problem is. And yes, you can be successful just on the basis of the AI and the technology, but in my experience, it's typically more challenging. And I think that articulation of the right problem and contextualizing the problem that you want to work on, which is where the clinical experts become, the domain experts become so critical, so important. And then having obviously the technical expertise and demonstration that you can address the problem that you want to solve with AI is really critical. And I've just found that when you bring those complementary expertise together, that's typically, not always, but typically a better recipe for success compared to, my AI is going to solve, cancer, right? So just a general observation. Again, I might be stating the obvious, but it's been interesting how many times, that comes up.
I think it's well said, probably very relevant. I think that's relevant across the board with grants. Having the right expertise and the right collaborators is critical, but probably more so in this space because it's so new and of interest to so many people. So we've lost several people who have had to move on to other meetings. So I think we'll end a bit early today. Before we end, though, just give you one last chance to ask any questions you have or any ideas that you'd like to float to the group. All right, I want to really thank Anant for taking time to do this with us this morning. I think you made a lot of good suggestions for connections for our participants, and I'm sure many will be reaching out to you afterwards for follow-up. Hopefully you reach out to each other for follow-up as well. You may have heard or met a collaborator today. Gray just put an evaluation in the chat if you don't mind filling that out. It gives us some ideas of how to improve these sorts of sessions the next time we do them. But thank you to everybody for attending today, and great thanks to Anant.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you all. Cheers.